I'm going to record this, and after the meeting, I will upload it to Vimeo. We have a district account on Vimeo, and send out the link to all. So welcome everyone, and we will open with some remarks from our Governor Peggy.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy lives. And it truly is a phenomenal time to be a Rotarian, as you know. And we at District 7780 have just really stepped up to the plate, and we are providing just some phenomenal service to our communities. And I look around here, and it triggers for me what some of the things are. But here today, what I want to really focus on is on the fact that our Rotary clubs are growing in membership, and that is exciting to me. What I think we need to do in helping our clubs onboard these new members is to talk maybe here for a few minutes as a group. And it's been brought up by several club presidents, how do you onboard new members? How do you, virtually, how do you get them engaged virtually? How do you establish a mentoring for new members? And so at some point we'd like to talk about it. I know we want to talk about it at our next club presidents meeting. So continue recruiting, and for example, Biddeford Saco just got a new member whose father has been a long-time member of the club, and now he has moved back to Maine with his family. He's grown up with Rotary, and his name is Matt. And I can't think of a better Rotarian. He's so excited to be back in Maine, but also to be part of a Rotary club. Matter of fact, they have written an article about it, and we're going to be posting that on the website. But that, it's the point of growing the family of Rotary that I want to stress here today, and the fact that we are growing in membership.
Thank you, Peggy. Did you want to mention the Million Mask Challenge?
I'd love to. That truly, for me, was one of my new Rotary moments. And it was a phenomenal Rotary day. I see Ted Trainer. Ted Trainer was there. Kathy Perkins was there, to pick up masks for their clubs. And I'd like, if I can, Andy, turn it over and ask what it meant to Ted and Kathy, because I know what it meant to me for us to be part of it. Kathy, would you like to share?
Yeah, it was really, it was a great, Melissa was there as well. I saw her there, and Pam and Andy. It was really fun to see so many people from all over the state and New Hampshire and Southern New Hampshire that were there to pick up their masks and chatting about where they were going and who they were giving to. Marge was there as well. And then the next day, I delivered them all on, we had 2,400 masks that went to a lot of different organizations in Westbrook and Gorham. And they were all, unfortunately, I couldn't do any photo ops anywhere because it's COVID, and they were going to schools and nursing homes and, that sort of stuff. So people, said, leave it on the porch, call me when you come and leave it on the porch, I'll come get it, or put it in the box in the vestibule. But many, many thanks, and thanks since then. So it was just exciting to be part of such a huge project. So
thank you, Kathy. Marge, could you share where your masks went, and also the opportunity we had to interview the sheriff?
Yeah, thanks, Peggy. We had 3,600 masks, and they went to 6 different locations. And what we did is we targeted some locations that we hadn't in the past with other masks that we had given away. One was the Cumberland County Sheriff's Department. We gave them 1,000 masks. Sheriff Joyce was there at the event. And I think what was equally important is that we had 4 Rotarians, in addition to myself, that were there, one of which was a brand new Rotarian, and they were a little bit starry-eyed about what it was that we were doing. The director for the Breathe Project at the Portland Public Schools was there with his Rotarian in hand, and he said to me, "You have no idea how much we appreciate these masks," because being part of the school district or the school department, they often get a little bit overlooked because it is a smaller, it's dealing with children that have psychological issues. And so they kind of, sometimes they get overlooked when it comes to these kinds of things. He said, "If there's anything we can ever do for you, let me know." And so we'll find a way to work with them and try, and we won't step on the toes of the Portland Club. RSU 14, which is our school district in Wyndham, Chris Howell has expressed an interest in joining Rotary. He was one of our speakers. So he'll join us next week as just to sort of get an opportunity to see what we're doing. One of the things that he had said was he was intrigued and really enjoyed the four-way test. So I had a coin that was given to me when I became governor, and with the four-way test on it, and I presented him with that coin because I just felt it was something that would be he would put in his pocket and possibly refer to from time to time. So there was a number of people that we were able to make smile. The prison, the Wyndham prison, never would have thought to, offer them masks, and they were just very excited about receiving them. All of them were delivered either the day of the event or the next day. So the only issue that we ran into, and thank you, Lorraine, and thank you, Peggy, is the pictures that were taken, which were a few, and they were of people receiving masks, they got deleted. And that's because I am not a technologically guru person, and my phone was overloading, and it was going to shut itself down. So I deleted some pictures, and of course, those are the pictures that ended up getting deleted. So we're working to get one of the sheriffs and hopefully some others that were there, but we've been able to, with Facebook, get a few pictures. So it was a good day.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everybody. I don't want to take up more of the meeting time, but it's a great, Marge's comments are a great segue into why, why events like this are so important to helping grow Rotary. And from what I'm hearing, it brought in there's the potential for bringing in new members, and that's exactly what it is. I think it solidifies for me how we as people of action, it's that action that attracts people.
Wow. Thank you, everyone. Anybody else want to contribute? Lorraine?
You're muted.
Besides working at the event, I also picked up for 4 clubs and was able to give Bath Sunrise to Irene the next morning at the Lincoln home. So they went off. And then Marty, the Booth Bay ones went to Rick Elder. We did a parking lot transfer yesterday. And then it just happened that Damariscotta town meeting was the next night. So the fire department, the police department had people there, that were going to be there already. And so we did those, and do the schools on Tuesday when they reopened. So it was fun. And I was really kind of adamant finding out the size of the box before he went down, because I have a smallish car, but I could have got 4 or 5 more cartons in there. Plus, taking the boxes apart. So it was a fun day.
It was a fun day. That it was.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Well, thank you very much. So just a quick intro. I'm Andy Glazier, and along with Lorraine Faherty, Lorraine and I are the 2 co-chairs of our District 7780 Grow Rotary Committee. And now I'm moving on to the agenda for this morning's meeting of Grow Rotary. And to get on schedule, I'm going to skip down to item 3, which is, has your club recruited or added any new members since this pandemic started? Has anyone had success with adding new members? Ted? So the response here is overwhelming.
You called on me this, Ted. I think Sue Gessing is going to answer for our club, because we've had a very successful time.
Good morning, Sue.
You're muted.
Sorry. We're about to induct our 4th new member since July 1st, which is unbelievable, we think. And I think I've said before that two of those members came out of working with people at a food pantry program that a number of us volunteered for over the summer, and they came out of that. But it's incredible, and the onboarding issue is one that I'm interested in hearing other ideas on.
Okay. And how did you get the other two?
I can speak for Exeter and for Hampton if there isn't somebody from Hampton here. Exeter has 2, maybe 3 new members. They all came from personal contacts. One of them is a gentleman that moved into town lately and was looking for a service opportunity, and Rotary came to his attention somehow, I'm not sure. And so he has been to a meeting already and is certain. Hampton had an interesting event about 3 weeks ago. We have an outside location, Victoria Inn, that has a pavilion. But the inn is not outside, but they have an outside pavilion. And they advertised in the local paper and through various other community outlets, Chamber of Commerce and so forth. And they did a program that was focused around areas of focus or areas of service, our 6 prime areas of interest. They set up a table for each one of those, and they had a Rotarian or 2, and they had a list of cards lying on the table about things going on around the country and around the world in each of those areas of focus. And they were able to talk to individuals that walked up and said, gee, what's going on in Kakamega? I never heard of that place. Or, I'm a teacher, tell me about the Guatemala Literacy Project. And they had about 60 people, and they have about 10, maybe a few more people that are interested in becoming active.
Wow.
That was
Bert, were you able to attend that Hampton event?
Yeah, I was. Bob Hamilton was there with me as well.
Was that a joint event, or were you just visiting?
We were just visiting. Larry Marcellet just let us know that we were going to do it, and they were going to do it, and we were welcome to come by.
Larry, Andy, excuse me, I saw Larry at the mask event, and I think if I remember correctly, he has 4 people from that event that are interested in becoming members.
Wow.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Susan, coming back to you, you mentioned that 2 people came in, you recruited them from the food bank. What about the other 2?
One thing I am finding is that people who are either new in a position at their company or newer to our community are ripe prospects, and all of these people fit one of those categories or another. But one was a kind of our local big bank, Kennebunk Savings Bank, always has a member that they designate for the 2 Rotary clubs. So we're lucky. We haven't had one for a while, but one of them is a young woman that the bank designated. And the other one is newer to the community, but is a friend of our town manager, because he also works for the town as the rec coordinator assistant. And he's interested in knowing more about his community, and that's why he's joining.
Wow, well done. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And they brought down our average age.
They have.
Yes, they much improved our average age of like 70 to, because they're in their 30s. So.
Wow, thank you. Dave Underhill?
Portsmouth, we've added at least 2, and it may well be 3. I'm not really on top of it. But one interesting tip, which would resonate with Pam and Melissa for sure, is the Seacoast area is exploding in terms of people turning real estate here. There's a big focus on folks getting out of the big city. If I'm going to work out of my home, let's live someplace nicer. So I think there's a real lead opportunity to network with the members of your club in particular, who are involved not just in the real estate business, the bankers, the mortgage people, the welcome wagoners, all those kinds of folks. And the other thing I noticed, one of our new members is from another area who'd moved here, recently retired, and was a former Rotarian. And that came up, and I called him on the side after a meeting and started a conversation that has ended up not so much being a mentorship, but a liaison. He's feeling much more welcomed than he was in a sea of Zoom boxes. And I think it's important for all of us to remember that it's the one-on-one contact, it's the outreach, the personal conversation. We're all getting Zoom glazed, and real interaction is really, really important.
Thank you, Dave. Marty? Then Kathy.
Oh, Booth Bay Harbor Rotary Club has brought on board 4 or 5 people, at least 3 or 4 of whom are under the age of 35. And the reason for that is that we changed our internal rules, and we decided that anybody under the age of 35 would not pay club dues. Now, obviously, they have to pay international and district as that applies, and they have to pay for their meals, but they would not pay club dues. And then we did that, quite frankly, because it wasn't going to hit our bottom line, okay? And then we ran an article in the paper written by our vice president, who happens to be in that category of people. And it was a wonderful article. You may have read it on the district website. It talked about how much she has gained from being a member of the Booth Bay Harbor Rotary Club, and all she has learned, and how it has impacted her positively in terms of her business career, etc. And then with a phone number to call. And based on that phone number, we had a meeting of young people who were interested in joining Rotary. I believe 7 people showed up for that. I was not there. We were trying to keep the number of people over the age of whatever out of that room when we had the meeting. So I was not there, but I believe there were 7 people that showed up. And they were either came because of the article, or they came because the younger people in our club had tapped them and said, hey, you might want to go to this. And out of that, we've got 3 or 4 people who are joining the club later this month.
Wow, fantastic.
Great.
Thank you, Marty. Kathy, and then I'm coming to Dave with a dues question. Kathy?
Well, we haven't added any members, but we almost did. We had a new person who moved to Gorham, decided that she was, now that she was settled in her career and that she wanted to be part of a club. And so I talked with her a number of times on the phone and by email back and forth. And she decided that she was going to join Rotary. However, she works in Kennebunk, so she's going to join your club. So you guys will get one more young person to your club.
No, it's not our club. Oh, sorry. That's the wrong club.
Dave Underhill, Chair of our Finance Committee. Do you have any news for us about dues, young members?
What a soft pitch that was. Why, yes, Andy. The dues invoices will be going out in the next week or two, the regular district dues. And at the request of this committee, the Finance Committee last week, I guess it was last week, approved a motion that basically allows clubs to not charge district dues to people who are under 30. And so it's to be confused slightly with what Marty just said. But the idea will be, if we invoice your club, let's make it simple. Let's say you have 20 members. We will invoice you your full dues invoice for those 20 members, which is a total of $43, including the foundation assessment. These are the dues you pay every year. But then you self-certify. You send us a note back that says, these 3 people are under 30. This is their name. This is their birthday. And you are then deducting those 3 amounts from your dues invoice. So you may count on that one for the current year. It allows anybody who was 30, well, under 30, if I remember correctly, as of July 1st, to not pay the district dues for this current year. And this is part of what I think will be a 3-year experiment. It's not a formal revolution, but the idea as posed by this committee was using Marty's phrase, very little impact on our bottom line and a lot of goodwill. So that will be in a letter to you with your dues invoice coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Dave. Very well
Thank you.
explained. Any questions for Dave? You explained it well. Thank you very much. I have a question. For the clubs that have successfully been adding members, what suggestions do you have for us other clubs who are not as successful as you? Carol Madsen?
Sorry, took me a minute to unmute. Well, we've been very active with the food pantries and doing health and wellness packages and things like that. And I've been recruiting a lot of people to do that, to do those service functions. And we've gotten at least one new member that way during COVID, and 2 others who've expressed an interest. So I think that's a wonderful idea for those of you who are bringing potential members to service or to in-person events. The other thing, and mixed reviews so far, is that one of our members, their group, a Norway Savings Bank and a couple of their branches, took a corporate membership. So I'm not exactly sure. That brought a couple of new people into the club, younger people, but they haven't been participating unless we go to them to actually do a project with them. And more and more we're looking at that. We'll be working with our other corporate member, Bridgeton Hospital, on the Purple for Polio event. And so I think those are some things that we've done. Jessica might have some other thoughts, but that's what I can say about Bridgeton Lake Region Rotary Club.
Thank you, Carol. You're a very active club. Do we have more suggestions from those of you who are successful for those of us who are less successful than you?
So this is Jessica Putnam. I want to comment. I'm in the club with Carol for Bridgeton, and thank you, Carol, for bringing that up. I know Carol's been just so fantastic with just pushing the corporate membership, and she's been doing just great with recruiting. But I think as we're all feeling that maybe the same way. All right, so maybe getting some newer people is not so difficult as we may sometimes think, but it's the participation and engagement and the difficulty with really making that face-to-face personal connection because of the current times that we're in, really just relying on the Zoom meetings. And I think really what it boils down to is, these new members, they're just not really sure of what they're maybe supposed to do or not do. So this is really great to get the discussion started, whether we talk about today or, the next Saturday Zoom, on ways that we can sort of just kind of help push that along until eventually we can get back to semi-normal in-person club meetings.
Well, thank you, Jessica. You had me when you said Carol is doing a great job.
She is. She always does.
Did I see your hand up? Marge?
So I would like to piggyback on Jessica because that was part of my questions. I've been doing this now for a number of years, but there's always new and fresh ideas. In getting new members, it's great, but it's more about maintaining those members that's important to us in our club. We're a small club, and now that we have the superintendent finding interest, the town manager may come in and join us, Raymond town manager. We want to be able to present to them a cohesive, clear package as who is Rotary, why are we here, what are we doing? And I know we could go to Rotary International and get some of this information, but it might be helpful to hear from some of the other clubs as what kind of tools, electronic or otherwise, are they using to educate these new people that are coming in.
Well said, Marge. Sue?
Sue, you're on mute.
I'm also having bad connection problem if I disappear. But anyway, several years ago, we put together a so-called fireside chat kit that we went over with each of our new members. And it was pretty nice. It's not electronic or anything, but it had a lot of Rotary International information, and it had a lot of our club information, including those dry documents called the bylaws and the Rotary Constitution, but we felt that every member at least ought to have it. And we sat down with each member, with the president, the sponsor, and someone else to go over that. And now that's harder, but we're trying to figure out, I can still make up those packets, and I'd be happy to share what's in them with anyone who wants to contact me. And I'm thinking of having a Zoom, delivering a packet to each new member, because we haven't done those chats, delivering the packets to their house, and then having a Zoom conversation with 3 or 4 of them with each member. But the thing I'd like to do is really zero in on what that member's particular interest is and help them or coach them on, as to how they could initiate a project based on their interest with the club. So that's what we're going to do.
Thank you, Sue, and thank you for your offer to share your packet.
Yeah.
Governor Peggy?
Hi, I know that in talking with some of my district governor classmates, one of the things that we've been talking about is how to bring together new members and have kind of like a district-wide new member orientation of some sort, you know, and maybe do pilot it and see how it is. But it would be an opportunity to have consistency in messaging throughout the whole district, and to have, you know, representation from the clubs, but it would be the opportunity to answer at the time, like Mark said, you know, who is Rotary, what is Rotary, kind of what we do, Sue, you know, at the fireside chat, and maybe just expand it into more of an orientation role. But I just throw that out there for thought.
Excellent idea. Thank you, Governor Peggy. Anybody else before we move on to a new subject?
Yeah.
Yes, Lorraine.
Okay. Yeah, so we have formed what started to be called a satellite club, but it's really not a separate club. So they have renamed themselves the Leaders Engaged in Group Service, LEGS. And there's 6 or 7 members right now, and 4 of them are Rotary members who couldn't make our 6:45 in the morning meetings, bad time at work for them. So they're generally younger because they're working. We've got the police chief, a bank manager, somebody owns 3 businesses in town, that kind of thing. And some of them are people we haven't seen in a while. So they're revitalized. And then we had 1 new member from that group who we've been after for years and years and years, Arini. And so she already kind of knows Rotary, but the age group on that is generally younger, and they are, I liked somebody's earlier suggestion about recruiting around focus areas, because the LEGS group, their focus is they're going to have one, actually they're meeting in person in somebody's rec room that you could probably put about 20 people carefully spaced, and for an hour, and then once a month doing a hands-on project. So they're really all about the service, they don't care about speakers or reciting pledges or any of that stuff. They just want to be hands-on doing work. So I like the idea of trying to recruit around, ecology or, water, or whatever people's interests are. I think that might be a way to go, especially in these times, because these projects are still happening in your own community.
Very well said. Thank you. I think the addition of protecting the environment is to our 6 areas of focus as a 7th area of focus opens wonderful opportunity for recruiting. I mean, that's
Especially
an easily
in Maine.
marketable concept. Marty?
I just want to point out that nowhere in the manual procedure does it say that any given club has to follow all 6 or now all 7 areas of focus. That if we had a satellite or a standalone club that was environment only, that would be a great thing, just as we could have a standalone club or satellite that was focused entirely on child maternal health or disease prevention or peace or any of the others. So just in terms of your thinking caps, I'd love to see, for example, an environment club started here in the district.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thoughts? Moving on. Governor Peggy.
I don't know if you saw it on Facebook, but I had a meeting with another fellow RN, and we are beginning to think about having a focused group of nurses and allied healthcare providers, and so she is very involved in the American Nurses Association Maine branch, and also Lois Skillings, who I learned is an RN from the Bath Club, and now is the president and CEO of Midcoast Hospital. She was part of our mask challenge. So she and I had a conversation. She's very interested in participating. So the Julie LaRue is a Rotarian from Portland. So anyways, it's beginning to have some interest. And we're going to be publishing something in the ANA newsletter, and we're going to be doing some social media. And our goal is that by the end of the year, that this Rotary year, we will have an active nursing and allied health professionals group.
Wow, that's great. I know you've had that on your mind for quite a while. So
I did before I even took, decided to agree to be the district governor. And I really, this is close off, obviously, to near and dear to my heart.
yeah, nice to see that your idea come to fruition. Well,
it's having the right people, and that's the key. It's finding the right people to get it going.
Thank you. All right, at this point in time, I'm going to turn the page to a new subject. And the new subject is, are you meeting in person? And if you are meeting in person, how are you doing it? Who's up first? Marge Barker.
So on October 1st, we had our first in-person meeting. We're meeting at Pat's Pizza, which is where we were meeting before. They've realigned the table and chairs, and we can get, depending on how many people come, 11 to 15 people in that room. Probably more, but it's comfortable with 11 to 15. And then we're also having Zoom available. So, for example, last Thursday, we had one of our members join us via Zoom who's not comfortable coming in person. And now we've had 2 meetings, and quite frankly, I'm amazed. We're getting so much done in those in-person meetings, more than we were getting done in Zoom. I thought we were getting done a lot with the Zoom meetings, but they're packed. Instead of having a social time with lunch, we're having working lunches now. So it's worked out okay.
So you're still doing the lunch?
We are. What I do is I let them know on Wednesday night how many Rotarians are going to be there, and if there's any food allergies or concerns, and they make us boxed lunches.
Wonderful.
Yeah, last week we had pizza. Week before that we had turkey bacon sandwiches. Really, we've never complained about their food and their service, and they're happy to have us there because they don't use that room otherwise.
Wow, wonderful. Good morning, Bert.
Now I can say good morning again. We had quite a discussion about this issue. We were meeting with Zoom every week, not having a real good time with it as time went on. And we had a discussion about having an indoor meeting or an outdoor meeting, and we decided that we wanted to meet outdoors in a shelter in a local park, which went well. And we now meet twice a month. One is an evening 5:30 cocktail meeting, and the other is a midday lunch meeting. And we have a member who's the rector of the local Episcopal Church, which has a very large parish hall meeting room. And we're able to space out in that room successfully. And it's in the center of town, so it's very convenient. So we are planning on using that some. And we're beginning to have a discussion with a local restaurant that has a separate meeting room from the dining room with separate air handling and is big enough to get 15 or 20 of us in. So that's sort of on the agenda. When we have food, we have box lunches produced by a local restaurant.
Bert, can you say which club you're from so people know which club?
Peggy, you're muted. Bert is from Exeter.
Oh, thank you. I just want to make sure other people knew that.
Well, thank you, Bert. So you've got your winter covered, whether you're either by going to the parish hall or by going to the restaurant with a separate room. When the temperature gets cold, you've got an indoor solution.
We're not sure how that's going to be received quite yet, but I think we have a few members that will absolutely not join us indoors. Getting to use Zoom with a wider group meeting, I think, would get some attention. I'd like to hear about other people's experience making that actually happen.
Okay, that's a very good question. Dave?
Our club has gone back and forth between having physical meetings and virtual, but they've always been virtual. So we've had a Zoom meeting every single week since mid-March, and that continues. The Zoom meetings attract 40 to 70 members. Now, Portsmouth has 150 members, so proportionally, nearly half the club at some times, but probably not too different from the turnout we used to get at a weekly lunch, which might have been 70, 75 people. The real challenge is in indoor space. The country club where we have met can handle X number of people indoors. We have not successfully reopened indoors. During the summer, we had some in-person meetings out on their patio, and that worked out somewhat well. When the governor came to speak, there were 40 people there, but the next week there were 15. And you can't make restaurant guarantees on 15 people in a club the size of ours. My belief is hybrid meetings can work very well. And every meeting ought to be available on Zoom. That eliminates the possibility that people feel excluded. And it takes a little more technology, but it's really worth doing. So if you're going to open indoors, I'd really recommend you find a way to Zoom those meetings too.
Dave, when you do a hybrid meeting, where's the camera focused? Is it on the group? Is it on the speaker, on the president? What are you sending out?
It's for the most part on the podium, although sometimes it'll get swung around to show the room. The Zoom screen goes up on a projection in the room. So people are seeing the 40 Zoom attendees, just like what's in front of you right now. And the really tricky part is the sound system. You've got to be able to hear the people on Zoom if you're in the room. You got to be able to hear the people in the room if you're on Zoom. And that basically means people in the room need to go up to the podium. And
Understand.
there's a discipline to that, but it works and it's really important. Peggy?
One of the things I've learned, because I've now completed all of the District Governor Club visits. And one of the things I've learned, and it's been good input from the assistant governors who have attended those meetings, is that when there were 6 in-person meetings, but they were all hybrid meetings. And the things to remember, if we use a hybrid setting, is to make sure that there's someone identified in the club who is the technology person specific to managing the Zoom meeting, and not the club president who's running the meeting. That's hands down very important. All of us remember when we're speaking, whether it's the club president or a speaker, and you're there in person, that you also address the people in the Zoom, in the Zoom setting, to make them feel included in the meeting, and to make sure that the speaker repeats the question that was said by someone in the audience. So, those are just key points to remember as a speaker in a hybrid meeting, but I found it to work very well. And I agree, Dave, it is the way to go, because when we're talking about, being, gaining inclusivity, we need to include them whether they can attend or not. And I think inclusivity starts right there with our own members.
So Peggy, you see that the hybrid meeting is the future?
I do. And I for one, am recommending that Zoom meetings do not go away totally. I believe that there's an opportunity to have a combination. And like Bert said, have an evening, something different in the evening, and once a month have a gathering. But I think that this is the time for us to look at how we become more flexible in our meeting format and become more flexible as Rotarians.
Peggy, this is Jessica Putnam. I have a quick question about the hybrid meeting style. I agree with you completely. And of course, our club is in the midst of trying to figure out how we're going to proceed as well. One thing we're going to try, and I am a little bit running behind on this and I don't have any results, but we're going to customize just a very straightforward 5-question survey to send to our members that's offering some feedback on how they feel, because we obviously care about that. Ultimately, you can't make everyone happy, but I think majority rules. Now for hybrid style, I definitely agree with you on having the tech person manage the meetings, and it's important to keep both parties engaged. Do you use a separate camera, or do you find that having a decent laptop with a camera through Zoom and you just the tech person waves it around the room? What has been the most efficient way to do that, have you found?
What I have found is that the laptop camera has worked out. It's making sure though that it's positioned, and so it's making sure that you take time way before the meeting starts to get everything on board, and for people and to ask people on Zoom, can you see, so forth. I like the idea of the projection. Rochester Rotary Club did that. They projected the speaker and they projected the people on Zoom. So that worked out, and that's the Rochester Club. And then we just heard from Dave that they've done that from the Portsmouth Club. The other thing, the Oxford Hills Club, what they did is they had 2 laptops. They had one in the front of the room, and they were in a church, the meeting hall. So they did a wonderful job of distancing and how they served the food. If anybody wants to know, Lynn Schott, the club president of Oxford Hills. But they had a laptop in the front of the room, and they had one in the back of the room. And she was the tech person was managing both, and that seemed, so the people in the back of the room, could also see the people on Zoom. And then to go to your question, there are clubs that have done surveys asking those exact questions about, should we get back together and so forth. And we could find out for you, what who some of those were. We might even ask today, just to give you some ideas of what the questions were. Marge?
I don't have the questions, Peggy. I'm sorry. What I wanted to what I wanted to comment on was the facility, the Pat's Pizza that we use has a TV up on the wall, and we hook up a HDMI cord to my laptop, which is a Mac, and we pan so the laptop sits at the head table, and so we pan all of the members as they speak and as they talk, and it the feedback is not 100% to your point as far as volume, so we have to be more conscientious about that. But it is allowing a member who does not want to come into the building to be able to join us. So it does work, and the TV works quite well. We thought about the projector idea because I have a projector, but it seems like the TV is less of an effort.
And Marge, I'm so glad you brought that up because Jessica, another club that's doing exactly that, Marge, with the television is because they're meeting in person at Duffy's in Kennebunk is the Kennebunk Rotary Club. Kim Chilton is the president there, and she can be a resource person. And I did a meeting there in that format, and it worked out quite well. Yes, I have to agree that, you know, the picture was not all that good, and I you know, as a speaker, you have to stay in one place. You can't, you know, be walking and talking, which is extremely hard for me. But anyways, it worked out well. So there are some options there, Jessica, and there are resources for you. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's great. And I'll jot down a few of those other club names. So thank you.
Okay.
Question to Dave. Is Portsmouth using a webcam like on a tripod or a commercial camera or just a laptop?
I'll have to confess, I've not been to a physical meeting there. I think it's just the laptop, because what happens often is you get this sort of angled looking up the nose of the speaker problem, which is really bad. What you want, I mean, you're doing a television production. What you want is eye contact. And as a speaker, I'm looking into the camera, I'm connecting with Sue and with Andy and with Peggy much better than the angled laptop thing. It's important.
Thank you very much.
And Andy, Melissa, Assistant Governor Melissa has been at the Portsmouth meeting, and she might have that answer.
So when you and I attended, or you were on Zoom, weren't you, Peggy?
Yes, I was. I did a Zoom meeting with Portsmouth.
Yeah, so when I attended the Portsmouth meeting in person, like Dave said, it was one computer with the camera on it, and they had one technical, one person doing the camera, and she would switch it around depending on who was speaking.
Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah.
Who else is meeting in person and how are you doing it? Susan D?
Hi, I'm Susan from Ogunquit. We meet at the Ogunquit Chamber of Commerce. We started maybe about a month ago. We meet twice a month on first and third Fridays of the month. And so the lower level of the chamber is a great big conference room with 2 big conference tables. And so far we've been keeping the doors and windows open also. So we've been meeting in there, and we have Zoom available. But I appreciate the tips of perhaps putting the, letting the computer focus on the speaker maybe at the podium, because the people in the Zoom are complaining about not being able to hear what's being said. And I think it's easy to forget about them. There's about 3 members who actually show up on the Zoom, but our attendance has been very tricky. We have 25 members. We're averaging about 10 to 11 people live at our meeting and about 3 on the Zoom. There's lots of discussion. We used to have fun and meeting at a restaurant, and we'd have this beautiful lunch, and now people are kind of bringing their lunch and, you know, just sort of eating on the fly type of thing, and we just have our meetings. So we're definitely looking for some ideas, and we may even leave the chamber if we find a restaurant. We can all be comfortable and get some kind of a box lunch. But one of our, the executive director of the Ogunquit Chamber of Commerce is one of our members. So she opened up the lower level for us to meet live.
Very
so it's
good.
been good.
Dave Gooch, your club is doing some in-person stuff, but it's not meetings. What is your club up to?
You're muted.
Well, we do a 5th Tuesday social if there's 5 Tuesdays in the month. This is, we try to do something on a social aspect. We did one was a Zoom cocktail meeting, but then we've had a couple that have been very satisfactory. We had a meeting, this is over at Marina's, our president's place, where they have an excellent outdoor area around a fire pit. We were able to be sequenced 6 feet apart or more. And we got turnout from people who would not normally show up at a Zoom meeting. and it was great meeting everybody. And then we have another member who is one of the directors for the Wildlife Center. And so we got a special preview of the new Wildlife Center where we showed up there. It says after hours, well spaced, and had a chance to both meet one of their ambassador animals, but also a chance to socialize and to look at what they've been doing with the Wildlife Center. And people really enjoyed it. We were able to have, you know, one of the members brought their children up to take a look at it, and it almost felt human again.
So your meetings are on Zoom, but your service and your activities are in person.
Yes, we have. And the comment is, I know Peggy had mentioned, this is about the weed pulling incidents, whatever. But for the people who participated, getting out and actually doing something physical and being outside and working together, it says, was something that the people who participated in it really enjoyed. And we pulled in family members as well to work with us, which was really fun to see.
Thank
Dave,
you.
Dave, what club are you with?
Kittery.
Okay.
Rotary Club of Kittery.
Good.
Also collectively known as the Breakfast Club now, since we have the Kittery After Hours Club. Marina also got us out because we had interest in the members is participating in the beach cleanup, which was another social work activity everybody enjoyed because it got them outside. And we were quite delighted to find out we had a couple of members who had never been out on those particular Kittery beaches, and was just saying, oh, wow, every time they turned around, because the Sea Point is a beautiful area when it's a beautiful day.
Plenty of fresh air on the beach. Thank you, Dave. Marty?
Sorry. I have a tip about the survey to ask your members whether or not they want to meet in person. We did not use SurveyMonkey. We had a number of people in the club who really wanted to get together. So we, physically. So we put them to work and we made them a committee of the whole to telephone every member and find out their thoughts. So on the one hand, I can't give you the answers to the 6 questions because it was a conversation, not a survey. But we reached out to everyone in the club, including people that had not been on Zoom, right? We haven't seen since we've gone to Zoom. And had a conversation. Based on that, when the board met to discuss whether or not we should continue to be virtual or start talking about getting back together, we had real numbers. And the board made the decision that we would not get back together, but based on those numbers, again, turn to folks who wanted to get back together, plus some people who have gone through this in their businesses. For example, we have a school teacher. And they're coming up with some guidelines so that when we do get back together, it will be based on some science and some guidelines, as well as the input from the whole club.
Thank you, Marty. Melissa, what's Dover up to?
So the Dover Club is currently doing mostly Zoom meetings. We've had pretty good attendance, about 20 of our 65 members on average. We are doing one in-person per month. We've been doing it at the Dover Bowl, which is where we hold our fundraiser, which I'll talk about as well. The in-person, the owner of the Dover Bowl has spaced out tables enough so that there's plenty of room in between our Rotarians. And so we feel we're safe there. They do provide lunch for us. So at a $5 cost, which is very minimal, we've been having our in-person meetings there. We used to do what we called Thirsty Tuesday, but we had to change the name because it was alcohol related. So now we call it Together on Tuesdays. And we've been hosting those at one of our Rotarians' homes. And we've done 3 so far. Peggy's been to one of them over at President Greg Dowdy's house. And it was fun. It was good distancing. Greg's wife made a meal for all of us. So I thought we were safe there. And then speaking lastly, for those that know, bingo is our major fundraiser in Dover, and we are back at it every Thursday night. They only allow 65 bingo players in the hall, so they're all spaced out, and they only allow up to 8 Rotarians to be selling tickets there. And we all have to wear masks. Everyone there wears masks while they're playing. Very safe environment. And we've been making some money, so it's been great.
Good for you. Thank you very much, Melissa.
You're welcome.
We have not heard from Nick or Nick. Any input for us? Nick and Nick? Okay, moving on. So those of you who are meeting outdoors when you're in person, do you have any thoughts what you might do when the weather gets cold?
Shiver.
Wear gloves, hats.
Suck it up.
Fire pits.
Get up, Buttercup. Sorry.
Lorraine?
You're muted, Lorraine.
Still muted.
We really don't have a venue here in Damascus, Newcastle, to meet inside. What few restaurants there are right now, they don't have back rooms. We don't have hotels. We don't have, the chamber has a small office. I mean, all the suggestions, we really are limited. We were meeting in the dining room on a independent living facility that's part of the hospital, and they're not taking guests, visitors right now. So we're going to just stick with Zoom for a while, at least till the end of the year, and wait and see what Schooner Cove does. And, you know, it's just, it is what it is. We'll adapt.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more thoughts? So Peggy mentioned that perhaps we could do a district new member orientation, get to know each other, some sort of event, and we will work on developing that and scheduling that, and we will let you all know.
Yeah.
Our next monthly seminar discussion series will be the second Saturday in November, November 14th. Thank you all very, very much for coming this morning and participating this morning. Mentioned at the beginning, this is recorded, and I'll send you the link. It'll be on Vimeo. And I thank you very, very much for all the effort that you put in and all that you do for Rotary. Thank you. Have
It's
a
been
wonderful day.
Great meeting. Great
Thank you.
meeting, Andy.
Thank you,
Thank
Governor.
you so much.
Enjoy
Thank you,
this
everybody.
beautiful day.
Thank you.
All right. Good to see you all. I love it. I love it.